In Master of Change, How to Excel When Everything is Changing, Including You, Brad Stulberg presents a transformative reframing of resilience, not as a rigid quality that helps us bounce back, but as a dynamic process of integration. Rather than resisting change or idealizing stability, Stulberg invites readers to embrace change as the core condition of human life, and to find strength, clarity, and purpose by adapting through it, not despite it. The book opens with a personal narrative. Stulberg describes a period of his life marked by sudden upheaval, a mental health crisis, career pivots, and the destabilizing awareness that he could no longer rely on the old metrics of success or control. This wasn't a story of hitting rock bottom and rising like a phoenix. It was murkier and more honest. He didn't snap back, he evolved. That evolution, messy and nonlinear, became the spark that would shape his entire philosophy of change. Central to the book is what Stulberg calls the rugged flexibility paradox. He borrows this term from Olympic coach Steve Kerr and Buddhist philosophy, marrying the idea that true resilience requires being both grounded and adaptable. He uses stories from athletes, soldiers, artists, and entrepreneurs to show how those who thrive in high-stakes, high-change environments are not the most stoic or the most talented, but the most mentally agile, those who know how to bend without breaking. One story that encapsulates this comes from an elite trail runner who suffered a career-ending injury. Instead of clinging to a lost identity, she eventually pivoted, channeling her competitive drive into coaching and environmental activism. Her story is not just about making the best of it, it's about actively reshaping identity in response to new realities. Stulberg uses this and similar narratives to illustrate his central thesis: successful people don't resist change. They build systems to continually reshape themselves within it. Rather than offering false comfort or silver lining platitudes, the book lays out the psychological cost of change with great empathy. Stulberg acknowledges grief, confusion, anger, and loss as essential parts of the adaptation cycle. He introduces the concept of identity limbo, a period where the old self is gone, but the new self hasn't fully formed. Through case studies and scientific literature, he argues that how we respond in this in-between space often determines how well we emerge on the other side. To navigate this space, Stulberg encourages readers to build what he calls a practice-based identity. Instead of defining yourself by titles, achievements, or even passions, which can be stripped away in moments of change, he suggests anchoring your identity in values and habits. For example, instead of saying, "I'm a designer," one might shift to, "I'm someone who solves creative problems daily." This subtle reframing allows identity to stretch without snapping when circumstances shift. In one particularly moving chapter, Stulberg recounts the story of a veteran transitioning to civilian life. The abrupt loss of structure, purpose, and camaraderie sent him into a spiral of disconnection. What helped him regain his footing wasn't therapy alone, but the adoption of a daily ritual: writing letters to his younger self. This small, repeatable act helped him make sense of his past, stabilize his present, and imagine a future. It exemplifies Stulberg's argument that micro-practices, repeated over time, can be far more powerful than grand reinventions. The book also explores the myth of control. In modern culture, especially in high-performance fields, control is often idolized: the person with the best routine, the most precise plan, the most optimized life. But Stulberg deconstructs this illusion, showing how excessive control creates fragility. Drawing on systems theory and ecology, he explains how nature thrives not through domination, but through equilibrium. He encourages readers to build adaptive capacity, the ability to stay steady through disruption by letting go of rigid expectations. Throughout the book, there's a strong undercurrent of neuroscience and psychology, but always delivered through stories and metaphors that bring the ideas to life. He discusses the brain's predictive mechanisms, how we constantly model the world and suffer when reality diverges from our mental scripts. Change, therefore, is experienced as a kind of cognitive dissonance. The solution isn't to eliminate surprise, but to train ourselves to tolerate and eventually welcome unpredictability. Stulberg brings forward a toolkit of change practices, not as hacks but as life frameworks. These include journaling prompts to track identity shifts, body-based routines to manage physiological stress responses, and systems of social accountability. He gives the example of a startup team that implements a mistake ritual at weekly meetings. Instead of punishing errors, they narrate what they learn from them, reinforcing adaptability as a shared cultural norm. Over time, the company grows more resilient, not because its members avoid change, but because they metabolize it together. Another key theme is the difference between fragility, resilience, and anti-fragility. Stulberg draws on Nassim Taleb's term anti-fragile, systems that get stronger from stress, but reinterprets it in a more human, less mechanistic way. He tells the story of a painter who, after a studio fire, begins using ash and charred wood in her artwork. Her creativity doesn't just survive destruction, it is transformed by it. For Stulberg, this is the essence of anti-fragile identity, the capacity to grow through chaos, not just endure it. The emotional tone of the book is both grounding and liberating. Stulberg doesn't promise mastery in the traditional sense. There's no final stage where one becomes permanently wise or unshakable. Instead, mastery becomes a continual process of reorientation. Like a sailor navigating shifting winds, what matters is your responsiveness, not your control over the weather. He returns often to the metaphor of surfing. Balance is dynamic, not static, it's achieved by constant microadjustments. Toward the end of the book, Stulberg explores societal change and collective resilience. He discusses how communities rebuild after natural disasters or cultural trauma. The most successful examples are not those that try to recreate the past, but those that allow new forms of belonging and meaning to emerge. He recounts the story of a town devastated by wildfire that chose not to rebuild its structures exactly as they were, but to redesign them around sustainability and shared resources. In that decision, they found not just recovery, but renewal. As the book closes, Stulberg returns to his central message with clarity and hope. The world is uncertain. Identity is fluid. Plans break. But in that very instability lies the possibility for continuous reinvention. Change is not an interruption to life, it is life. Those who stop resisting and start integrating change, who replace rigidity with rituals and panic with presence, not only endure but often evolve into stronger, wiser versions of themselves. Master of Change is not just a guide for navigating big transitions, it's a philosophy for being human in a world that never stays still. Stulberg's compassionate storytelling, grounded science, and actionable insights come together to form a modern manual for adaptation. It challenges readers not to ask, "How do I survive this?" but instead, "Who am I becoming through this?" In that question lies the heartbeat of the book, and, perhaps, the secret to lasting resilience.